And now please welcome to the program the fabulous Don Sears. Don, can you hear me all right?
I sure can, Paul. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, thank you, and it's such a great pleasure to have you here on my radio program. It's a true honor. Thank you for coming.
My pleasure, absolutely.
Well, I know you're real busy, so maybe if, guess we could start at the beginning. And I guess from a very early age you started listening to your parents' collection of traditional or classic country music records and raised on the music of such greats as George Jones, Merle Haggard, Dolly Parton, Lefty, Frizzell, Connie Smith. Do you have a favorite country singer, or did you have a favorite growing up?
Well, I really liked listening to Jim Reeves and Lefty Frizzell, and probably Tammy Wynette, but I think Connie Smith would have to be my absolute favorite singer.
My favorite, too.
For female singers. And then male, I've got a lot of favorites there. They're George Jones and Merle Haggard, George Strait. I could just go on and on and on.
Sure.
Gene Watson.
Sure. So how old were you when you got your first guitar?
Well, I was 11 or 12, I think, and I really didn't know I could sing until I started to try to play the guitar, and I wanted to try to sing like Skip to My Lou, to try to sing with myself when I played, and it was very frustrating because when you're learning how to play the guitar, changing the chords fast enough is probably the most frustrating thing,
Sure.
Or any instrument, I guess, when you're a novice at it. And that's actually when I learned how I could sing. People said, "Man, you can sing." I said, "Well, I guess I can."
And so from there, about 3 years after you started playing the guitar, you decided to try your luck performing in public, wasn't it?
Yeah, I had my mom and dad helped me get into some like the VFW talent contests, and there was I grew up in East Grand Forks, Minnesota, and right across the river was Grand Forks, North Dakota.
Sure.
And they had a contest over there. Well, I don't know if it was a contest. I think it was called a place called the Frontier, and it was a bar. And I had to have my parents with me when I went in, but
Sure.
They brought me into some of the artists that would come in there, and once in a while I'd get to sing with them. But I entered some talent contests, like at the VFW and things around my hometown. And I guess that's where I got my first taste of the competitiveness of it and that portion of it.
So I guess from there you never really looked back. You continued to keep winning more contests and moved on to the club scene and eventually got a gig with a road band and left home fresh out of school.
I did, and it was kind of bittersweet because that was the very first time I'd ever left home without my parents, and other than a sleepover here or there. But
Sure.
They had to sign a piece of paper saying that I wasn't a runaway and that the folks I were with had custody of me, or parental guidance, I guess, until I turned 18. And saying goodbye to my mom and dad was probably one of the scariest times in my life.
Sure.
Although there were plenty more up ahead that I didn't know about, but it was scary. But it was something that I really wanted to do, and they knew that I wanted to do it, and they wanted to. That was about the only way that they could help me. You know, we didn't have any connections, or we didn't know anybody in the music business other than those folks I was going on the road with, and so that was and then from then on, I didn't look back at all. No, I'd play and sing for anybody who was willing to listen.
And from there, you actually ended up fronting your own band after not too long. And so what was it like to front your first band?
It was scary at first, knowing what to say. And I think the biggest thing
Sure.
in a media fashion, or when you're in front of people, whether you're talking or singing or doing a seminar, you want people to like you. And it took years for me to realize that not everybody's going to like you. And I think once I settled or understood that, I think the fear, a lot of fear went away because you just can't please everybody all the time. But it was an adventure. It was, in the music business when you're starting out, and even when you're successful, there's a lot of feast and famine.
Sure.
So it's good for a while, and then it's bad for a while, and you just gotta keep your piggy bank full for the hard times.
And you came to Nashville in what was it, 1987? But
Yeah, I
you have
started
said.
coming in '80.
I'm sorry. Oh, I was just gonna say you've said in the past that it was not music that brought you to Nashville, but actually your future husband, the fabulous fiddler Kenny Sears. And
Yeah, we met in Las Vegas, Nevada, of all places. I had my little band playing in the Sahara Hotel, and I didn't know who he was. He was always dressed very sharply, and he would come down to the lounge where I was playing every night at about, I don't know if it was 10 or 11 o'clock, and he always had a blazer on, seemed tailored to his body, and nice boots and a cowboy hat, and
sure.
and a big, long, rectangular case, which I had no idea was a fiddle in there. It wasn't shaped like a musical instrument at all. And the National Finals Rodeo were in town at the very same time, so I just assumed he was with the rodeo. And I knew the guitar player who played with Mel Tillis, who was playing in the showroom at the Sahara Hotel. And eventually, about the third night, I think they were there for like 10 days or 2 weeks, and I was booked at the same time, and so was the rodeo. And he introduced me to Kenny. I found out he was a fiddle player, and invited him to sit in with the band, and we went out and had a dinner a couple times while he was there, and he eventually invited me to Nashville, and I would come and visit, and he'd send me back to, I lived in Las Vegas at the time, put me back on a plane, and I'd come and visit, and he'd put me back on a plane, and finally I just quit leaving. I told my dad, I called my dad, I said, Dad, I'm getting married. And he said, really? I said, yeah, but Kenny doesn't know it yet. And we had only courted about 6 months before I couldn't stand it anymore. I thought,
sure.
if this isn't going anywhere, I don't want to put all my eggs in this basket if it's not going anywhere, because I guess that was my first, and I really thought, honest to God, that I was going to be an old maid, because I had traveled a lot and had never
sure.
found my knight in shining armor. My mom always said, well, you'll know the one when the right one comes along. And I thought, well, that's kind of a dumb thing to say. How are you going to know that? But I did. As soon as I saw him, my world, everything just looked a whole lot brighter. And so after 6 months, I asked him to marry me, and he said yes.
And you and Kenny are still married today.
We are, 21 years later.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I got a good catch.